Okay, and then I will share my screen and we can get started. All right. And does this look good? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can see my screen. Or a heads up in the chat at least. Cool, perfect. All right. So today we're going to talk about social media. This is the one that I know the most about. I have the most experience in. I have been on social media as a brand or as a company pretty much since Facebook started. So back when you had to have a .edu email address to join Facebook, that is when I started using it on behalf of companies and on behalf of brands. A trap that a lot of people can fall into with social media is that you think because you use it personally that it's the same way to use it as a company, and the answers are they're very different. The way people interact with a brand is going to be different than how they interact with a person, which makes sense when you think about it, but the skills don't necessarily transfer one-to-one in that way. So today we're going to talk about both paid and organic. Something I want everyone to think about is, what is the purpose of social media? So why does it even exist? And really the answer that I bring people back to, and it's easy to forget, is that it's media that we want to share with other people. It's media and content that we find important, that we think we should share. So back before social media, it was newspapers and television that controlled what stories you heard, what images you saw. And the power of social media is that it's very democratic, right? It gets spread to everyone. And so there's no one person that can control it. But again, it's media, meaning content, images, pictures, links, articles, videos that you share with someone else, with a network of people. So it's really important to remember that it's not just you in a vacuum, it's you in relation to everyone else. But what's the purpose of social media in your business? So you as a person can have social media and keep up with your friends, follow people that are inspirational or aspirational to you, but for a business, it serves a different purpose. And you as a business owner have to identify what that purpose is. You know, social media can't be everything to everyone. And you need to define, if you're going to spend your valuable time and money on social media, what are you going to use it for? So social media, what it is and what it isn't, especially when it's a brand. Again, it's media or content that's shared socially, what people find interesting, what they care about. It's a way to deepen and maintain connections with your customers. Again, that's the social aspect. Too many brands fall into the trap of posting on social media, and it's a one-directional post. It's check out how great I am. Look at our greatest sale. Buy this new product. It's not starting a conversation. It's not having a conversation with your customers. And that's really a missed opportunity. And it's also, of course, a communication channel. So think about social media in your stable of channels and your stable of communications, just like email, just like text message, just like your website or a storefront, putting out a sign in your storefront. Social media is just one communication channel out of many. Hi, Anne. Thanks for joining. Feel free to put any questions in the chat as we go through. What social media isn't, though, is it's not free marketing. You won't get unlimited new customers. You're not going to get in front of complete strangers for no money. And it's really hard to go viral. I can't tell you, it may seem a little silly, but I can't tell you how many business owners have seriously asked me, well, just make this new post and make it go viral. There is no go viral button. Things either happen organically or they don't. So again, when you think about social media, it gets super easy to think it's the end all be all for a business and that it's this amazing free marketing tool, when in fact it was like that for a little bit, and now it has become just like any other channel for a business. So a few guiding principles. Again, it's not the end all be all for your brand. Very few brands can make it on social media alone if they don't have other channels. Organic works against brands. So Facebook and Twitter and Instagram figured out that, well, if a company is posting what looks like an ad, and quacks like an ad, then it must be an ad, so we should charge them for this. So that's why brands have a really hard time getting organic reach on their posts. So even Starbucks, I was looking at their Twitter account the other day, and even though Twitter is still kind of in chronological order, it's starting to become algorithmic, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And so even Starbucks tweets are not interacted with that much compared to their audience size. It's because Twitter knows, well, they're a brand, they should be paying for this kind of exposure. Whether or not it's fair, I can go on about that for a long time, but that's just the fact of life. So social media, getting organic growth and even hashtag viral growth is not easy, and it certainly won't be free. Again, determine the purpose. Why are you on social media? Are you adding value to people? Either entertain them, inform them, inspire them, but don't just produce content just to produce content, because that doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve your customer, and the algorithms will punish you for that. And you just don't want to be the type of business that just produces stuff that doesn't have any value anyway. So if you're really, really clear on why you even have social media in the first place, that should be your guiding principle for the type of content you produce and what channels you produce it on. And the next one is build a community. So again, I think the really special part about social media is it's people talking to each other. It's what they care about. Let's say you are a snowboarding company. Yes, you want to sell snowboards, but you are really passionate about snowboarding. Your employees know about that. They can make posts on, here's what we did the other day. We tried this new trick. We tried this new technique. Here's how we prevent injuries. All of these topics are around buying a snowboard. And so think about, who is the customer that you're serving? What do they care about in relation to your brand? So it doesn't make much sense for a snowboarding company to talk about coffee and the best way to brew coffee. It makes sense for them to talk about their industry and their topic that they play in. Again, when you get tempted to start making posts like that aren't related to your business and your industry, that's how you know you need to take a step back, rethink about your strategy, rethink about what you're saying to who. So another point on the algorithms, this is a dumb joke from a TV show on Netflix that I highly recommend, but it's called really the algorithms. You've probably heard this term before, and some people know what it is, what it isn't. Really what it is it's the computer's way of saying, okay, if Angela Arnold follows 10,000 brands and they all post one time a day, but she really only scrolls far enough to see 20 posts, well, which of those 20 posts should I show her? Well, she's probably more interested in things from her friends. She's probably more interested in the things she's clicked on or liked or commented on before. So that's what the algorithm is. It says, what is Angela the most likely to find valuable? What is she most likely to look at? And then it has to balance also how much money a company is paying to get in front of Angela. So this is why when somebody asks me, what should my social budget be? Or even what should my digital advertising budget be? The answer is it depends. How many other people want to get in front of your audience? How many times do they want to get in front of your audience? You are not buying space for my eyeballs by yourself. You are bidding against a lot of other people for this. So again, this is why you should treat social as a partially paid channel, because you have to pay money to have a place in the algorithm. This is just unfortunate, but it's kind of how it works. There's very few social media channels where it's unlimited engagement, unlimited impressions. The new ones, that's why the new ones get really popular with brands pretty quickly, like Snapchat or TikTok, because then you can reach somebody one-to-one. But again, don't get too stressed out about social media. It's not going to make or break your business. It is just a channel. So with any post, when I say organic post, I mean something that you go in and post, you're not paying for it, it's not an ad, you're not boosting it. That's what organic means. And so with any organic post, what is the end action you want the user to take? And it sounds a little silly, but this is where the difference is between when you post as you and when you post as your brand. Because when it's just you just want to share the sandwich you ate, or the cool vacation pic you took. But when you're a brand, do you want somebody to like it? Do you want someone to comment, share it, click through? You can adapt your content, meaning the copy and the caption that go with the post, based on what you want that action to be. So if you want somebody, that's why you've probably seen these cheesy posts that are like, click like if you agree that puppies are great, or tag a friend that you would want to take on this vacation. That's a very clumsy way of doing this exact thing. It's priming the viewer to take some kind of action. And before you write any post for your company or your brand, think through what is the end result that you want them to take. It'll really help focus the captions that you write. And then you can have a nice balance and mix of end actions that you want the user to take. Because if you have a social media feed where all people do is like, then that's not nearly as powerful as one where people comment, where people share with their friends, where they click through. You want a nice balance of all of these things. So with organic social media, there are going to be, and you guys may have seen this, a lot of gurus, a lot of people who promise to show you the social media secrets to go viral, or you should only post pictures of blue items on Tuesday and green items on Wednesday. It's super easy to get sucked into these really deep details and to get on all these email lists that promise you, here's the hacks, here's the guaranteed things. But the answer is it's going to change constantly. And until you have the foundations down, until you have a process down, you know the purpose, you know your audience and who you're talking to, I would not get super worried about these details because you're just optimizing these small pieces, right? What's the metaphor? Arranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Like, make sure you have the ship built and running and not running into an iceberg before you start optimizing the little stuff. And again, every one of us as business owners, we have a limited amount of time and energy. So I run a marketing consulting company, and I don't have social media for it. I don't post about social media at all. I barely even have a functioning website because my other channels are more important. Doing workshops like this is a great lead generator for me. If I go to a meeting here in town of small business owners and I teach them something and give them value, that's a much better lead gen for me than it is just making social media content that goes into the void. So know what really drives value in your business. So let's talk about channels. I have used this word channels a few times, and some people can get confused by that. All I mean is just where are you posting? So in your business, a channel is a provider or a site or a network. So Facebook's a channel, Twitter's a channel, email is a channel, your website's a channel, Google My Business, they have like a blog post feature now, that's a channel. But consider, yes, it's free for you to set up a Twitter account, a LinkedIn account, a Facebook account, a Pinterest account for your business, but it's not free for you to maintain that. Even if you cross-post, even if you say, all right, I'm making a post on Facebook and I'm going to post the exact same post on every other channel, which is not something I recommend, that still takes time. All of that stuff adds up and it takes time and friction. And if that's not where your customers are, then it's a waste of time. So really ask yourself, where do my customers hang out? Are they Pinterest people? Are they Reddit people? Are they only on a certain hashtag on Twitter? And if you don't know, ask your customers this. Say, hey, what channels do you like the most? And it sounds weird, but I did this on behalf of one of my clients. They are an education technology company for schools. And I said, hey, send out a customer survey and just ask them, what websites do you look at? What social media do you look at? What publications do you read? What blogs? And the answer that we found that I would have never thought of is they get most of their information from newsletters. So other education technology companies, other teacher associations, that's where they get all their information from. And so now me as a marketer, I'm going to go pursue those newsletters. So instead of spending money on Facebook ads, I'm going to spend money to be promoted in these newsletters. So do a little market research. That will tell you a ton. And then with social media, if you don't have a channel right now that's really doing great, or if you don't know which ones to start with, just pick one that you think is the best fit for your customers and make sure you're really getting good at it. Make sure you're really feeding it the right way, you're posting enough, you're engaging with people enough before you try to add additional channels. Even if your customers are equally on Facebook and Twitter, but you can only maintain, if you can realistically only maintain one of those, then just pick one and get really good at it. And then hopefully you can hire somebody to do the other channels. Then the other thing is consistency. This is where I talk about making sure you maintain that channel that you already set up. Make sure that you are publishing regularly, that you're talking to your community, that you're interacting with the posts people either do on your page or the posts that people in your industry are talking about and interacting with. So you should really work on scheduling or saying to yourself, all right, I'm going to schedule a Facebook post 3 times a week. I'm going to spend 30 minutes on community management for my own page, meaning answering any direct messages, responding to any comments, and then I'm going to spend 30 minutes a day, again, looking at pages where my customers follow as well and interacting there. So it takes a little time, but this is where I come back to social media is not a free channel. You have to spend time and or money, usually both, to make this work correctly. And then a content balance. I spoke a little about this with the end result that you want the user to take, but think about if, VH1 only ran one TV show the entire day. Sometimes it feels like, a TV channel only shows the same things over and over, but they have a mix of content. They have a variety of content because that's what will keep people interested. And it's the same thing on social media. You can't just post about promotions. You can't only talk about sales. Even if your social media page is about how great dogs are, you can't just do pictures of dogs. You should do videos. You should do questions. You should do user-generated content or contests. Make sure you have different types of content. So I went on Starbucks Twitter just to grab a few examples in these 2 posts, right? One is a promotion with a little poem, and then the other one is a survey. So even on Twitter, they're using Twitter's internal tools and internal post types to drive engagement. And so this is where I'm going to caution you again of, if Starbucks said, well, we're going to post the same thing across all channels, that top post could be used across all channels, right? But the second one is dependent on Twitter. It's dependent on that channel. And so make sure you're planning to use the channel to the best of your ability. For example, LinkedIn. If you write an article on LinkedIn using their built-in tool, they're going to reward you in the algorithm and show that post to more people than they would have normally. Or if you had written the post elsewhere and just linked to it in a regular LinkedIn post. So for each channel, make sure you know which features that they have and what you're using. So here's an example of, let's say you know you want to publish on social media. You say, for example, let's say this one's Facebook. How do you know what to post and when? This is where you're going to get really tripped up, and every day you're going to sit there and stare at your screen and be like, I don't know what to talk about. But do a little planning in advance. Have some content pillars, which are broad categories, and then schedule those out and say how often you want to talk about those. For example, this is for one of my clients who has a clothing store. She has a physical store and an e-commerce website. And I said, what are the major things that make sense for you as a brand to talk about, which is meet the maker. So because she's a boutique, she really wants to highlight who makes the clothes, who are the manufacturers. Talk about styling, because people who buy a skirt want to know different ways to wear that skirt. Talk about the design. So her clothing store was really focused on pin-up and kind of retro styles. So talk about that aesthetic, talk about the history of it. And then inspiration and observation. Sometimes people just want to look at pretty stuff. And so it's okay to build into your content calendar pretty stuff. The other example for this could be memes. If your audience really likes memes, make sure you have a content pillar that's to share just some fun stuff. Make sure it's still related to your industry and what you talk about. But it's okay to have something a little different. Customer highlight. I really love with any brand, hold up your customers. They are your champions. They are your heroes. They are the ones keeping your business alive. As much as possible, make sure you give them shout outs for the cool things that they're doing with your product or service. Make sure that you show how you're enriching their life. Like, let them be the hero of the story instead of just you and your brand being the hero. I think it's really important to show that. And the more you do, the more people will submit pictures to you. It's really cool. You can watch a pattern happen almost every time, where when you start sharing customer photos, you can see an uptick in the number of pictures that you get tagged in as a brand. And so it just means that people will, they're going to imitate the things that they see you post. And so why not post about them? Why not post about their lives? It becomes really powerful that way. So here you can write out your categories. You can write out just kind of a description of what it is. And then the cadence, how often do you want to talk about it? And then what you do is you put that in a content calendar. So you say, all right, Facebook, we're going to post 3 times a week. Maybe the same thing with Instagram. Take those content pillars and say, all right, week 1, we're going to talk about user-generated content, which is our customer, an event or promotion, and then that lifestyle content pillar. Well, now that you know the overall topic, the subject for that post, it'll be a lot easier to then write the post if you know at least a direction to aim in, right? You're not just going to sit there and be like, I have no idea what to talk about. Now you can see I have a whole month planned out. Then when I say, okay, I'm going to take 2 hours this Friday to write all my social media for the month, I can take this calendar and write out all these posts. And usually what I recommend is you see how this is planned out for 1 month. Maybe for the next month, rearrange the order. It doesn't really matter so much now with the algorithms because people see things that are 3 weeks old or 2 days old. It doesn't matter when they looked at it. But I do like to mix it up a little bit in terms of what order I post these. Not required, of course. So something I want to emphasize again, and this is where I'll bring in my super nerd roots. I've been a community manager for some really large online forums for pretty much my whole life. I was a moderator for the Austin subreddit for many years. And managing and building a community takes time. It takes everyday effort, but it will really, really pay off because that is the most powerful driver of our behavior. It's when other people can see and connect with people who care about what they're interested in. So yes, you as a brand can post cool pictures or funny memes or promotions all day long, but if you're providing a place for people to share information, ask questions, feel heard, troubleshoot problems, learn new things, that's way more powerful and way more valuable than them just seeing a funny picture. So make sure you're balancing the real value and the real thing that makes social media special. It is not just an advertising channel. It is an opportunity for you to build connections and have people help each other. The best part, I always say, I know when a brand is really, really healthy is when their customers are helping each other. I used to work for a car sharing company, and I knew we were in a good place when somebody would say, hey, I'm not sure how to do this one thing in the app. And before I, as the brand, could even respond, 10 other people jumped in and said, here's how you do this. By the way, have you tried this new feature? When you have that kind of loyalty and connection with a brand, it will pay off because then the company did not have to pay me my salary rate to go in and answer that question. The community did it for them. So always consider who you're talking to, why you're talking to them, what value can you bring, what can you let people nerd out about? You know, all of us are nerds about certain things, and I hope that with your business, you are a nerd about your business. So let people be really passionate about that. And it's okay to geek out and get into the details. It's more important for you to give value to 2 people than to have a shallow interaction with 10 people. I promise it will pay off down the road if it's a lot deeper and more meaningful. So when you think about building your community, there's a lot of steps and stages to this, but something I want you to think about is most people seeing your posts are just going to be lurkers. They are never going to interact. They're never going to click like. They're never going to click share. And that's okay. Then there's people above them who are participants, meaning they'll kind of like give you a like every once in a while, or they'll send through an emoji or a sticker. And only 1% actively engages by leaving a comment or sharing your post or creating a new post on your wall, which that's not really function in Facebook anymore. But think about this triangle every time you post. So when somebody says, well, I have 3,000 followers, but that's cool, but maybe only 300 actually interact with you. So whenever you make posts, think through how you can get somebody from the bottom of the triangle to the top. They're not going to jump from being a lurker to leaving a comment right away. You want them to slowly warm up by saying, you know, make a post where the implicit action is for them to like it. Then make a post where the implicit action is for them to leave a comment, and then one where they can share it. So you can't, just like with sales, right? You can't introduce yourself to someone and go straight to the sale. You have to push them up this funnel of engagement before they can really start interacting with each other, interacting with other people. If you start a Facebook group for your business, here's just a tip from me. I had, I think, about 250 people in one of my groups, and I was posting multiple times a week, and I was like, I am getting crickets, absolutely nothing. Nobody's responding to anything. But there will always be a point, a couple of weeks in, where people start to interact. It's like a weird light switch. They have to know to trust you enough that they can start commenting, they can take their time to interact. And then after that point, after that light switch moment, then the rest of the community started engaging. There was a lot more conversation. People were making their own posts. So sometimes it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. You have to work at it, again, every single day. Make sure you're working on it all the time. Another few tips on how to build community. So anytime somebody leaves a comment, that is awesome. They took time out of their day to type something and respond to your brand. So make sure at least you like it, but at the most you should be responding to them, even if it's to say thanks or I appreciate it or give them an emoji. What you're doing is reinforcing their behavior of interacting with your brand because you want them to do that. That is super valuable. That builds a deeper connection. The other piece is to ask your community questions. Again, just don't talk at them all the time. It gets really, really boring. Ask them. They're the ones who also know about this topic and who care about this topic. Let them contribute content. Then the other one is to post like news or announcements. Even if it's small, they like to know that things are being updated and it makes them feel better. And then add value instead of noise. If you don't have anything to post about that's interesting or engaging or helps them learn something or is maybe going to save them money, then don't talk about it. It's okay to not post. Ideally, you start with a really low number of posts per month, and then you slowly ramp it up once you know you can meet that with value. Don't just say, I'm going to post 3 times a day every day, starting from 0, because you're setting yourself up for failure. Make sure that you can meet a consistent posting schedule with good value. Make sense? All right, now we're going to talk about paid. And if you have questions about organic and paid, we'll talk about these at the end. We have about 30 minutes left, so we'll be good there. All right, so paid social media. This is where I'm going to try to balance strategy with nerdiness here because I can get really deep in the weeds. But overall, think through the different, just like you did with organic, where the end goal can be likes or comments or shares or tags. It's the same thing with paid social media. What kind of paid posts do you want to put out there? Meaning, what is the end result that you want? Do you want somebody to follow your page? Do you want someone to click through and buy something? Do you want them to just see your brand name and see one of your products? Make sure you know the end purpose of it and where it fits in the funnel before you just start spending money. A trap I really see e-commerce customers falling into is they go, well, I have an online store, so I'm going to run ads to my online products and expect to get sales immediately. But that's not how that works. They need a reason to buy from you. They need a reason why your product is better than someone else, or your store is better than someone else, or that they even need a product to solve that problem in the first place. So if you're an e-commerce store, it's really easy to fall into the trap of, let me just get sales right away. You have to make people aware of the problem and aware of why you can fix that problem better than anyone else before you can make the sale. So even though you're selling online, don't fall into that trap, is what I will say. Then the next part is use the robots. So we all know that Facebook and Google are wonderful overlords, and they will never do anything wrong. But they know every single thing about us. That is just the reality of the web. But what that means for you as a company is a good thing, because it means that you know who's visiting your site, who's looking at your ads, who's likely to buy your product. It used to be, and lots of us still fall into this trap, where if I'm going to do a Facebook ad, you used to say, okay, I'm going to target new parents from age 25 to 34 who live in Georgia and own a car. That is not nearly as accurate as if you tell Facebook, hey, Facebook, here are the people who visited my site and bought something, or even just here are the people who are on my email list, or people who've walked into my store. Go find people who look like that. Because the demographic information, like age and location and children or anything else, is not nearly as accurate as the thousands of data points that Facebook has on somebody. So when you hear the words like cookies and pixels, all that is it's things that help track people who go to your website and who buy things from you on a scale that is, well, it's related to your social profile. So everything you've ever liked, the pages that you follow, the pages that you comment on, all of those feed into kind of a virtual profile of who you are. So one of the most powerful things that I have people do, there's two things, we'll talk about them later, I think. Yes, lookalikes and targeting, but is to trust the robots. So when you're talking about targeting, don't say, I think I know who my customer is. Say, here's a list of my customers, find people who look like them. Or, you know, I think I know I can drive these kind of people to my website. Put a pixel on your website, track who's coming, and say, hey, Google, go find people who look like the people who've been visiting my site, using, again, thousands of other data points than just what you can think of. It's really creepy once you start doing it, but it'll make your ads a lot more effective. And the good news is it's less work for you because you don't have to think through all of these different points. Placement and targeting. So some notes on this. This is getting pretty detailed, but if you're already running Facebook ads, I recommend, or Instagram ads, Google ads, all of it. I recommend doing or splitting out your ad sets by mobile versus desktop. Because depending on the ad type, depending on what your product is or your service, mobile users will act differently than desktop users, and you may find really good success with one or the other. So for example, I was running, I had a coaching business and an online course for productivity related to my first book. And I was running ads. I had one ad set for the Facebook group, and I had one ad set for a webinar. The Facebook group performed way better on mobile. It was a lot cheaper than it was on desktop. But for the webinar, people weren't going to watch it on their phones. They're not going to sign up on their phone. It worked way better on desktop. But I would not have known that if I hadn't split out those ad sets to only target. I said, hey, for the Facebook group ads, only target mobile. Then I made a second group and said, hey, only target desktop. And then I can compare those to each other and see which one is more effective. Then if you're doing placements in Facebook, make sure that you don't let Facebook just target or put the ads anywhere. Make sure you uncheck all the boxes to only target the newsfeed. This is pretty deep into the ads platform, but I've used this for many, many clients and it works really well. And then with targeting, you know, you can do some market research. So if you don't have enough traffic on your site to use a pixel effectively, if you don't have a customer list to do a lookalike audience, then just do some market research. Think through for your customers, you know, who are the top experts or authors they would follow in this topic? Who are your top 2 competitors? What magazines or sites do they read related to this topic? All these other things can inform some placement and targeting versus just demographic information. And then how is it performing? So something to think through is it takes time. So there are millions and millions of people using these social media networks, including Google, obviously. And even though the robots are really creepy and good at what they do, they still need time to find them. So when you launch ads, it's going to be really hard, but don't mess with it for 7 days because it needs time to show, okay, I started showing it to this group and they weren't really clicking through. I started showing it to that group and they were clicking through. Okay, let's dive in deeper to that group and find who's even more likely to click through. So just give the algorithms time to work through and get really accurate. And then if you're gonna change your ad or tweak it, make it copy and only change one element. So either change the copy, which is the words on the ad, or the design, which is the pixel or the picture, or the targeting. Don't mess with everything at once because then you won't know what works the best, right? So this ad that you see here on the right, this was for my my coaching business I was telling you about, and I did a bunch of tests with this, and this image in particular won over everything else, no matter what I did, but I was able to change the copy, I was able to change the targeting. So make sure that you're only changing one element so you know what actually works. And then make sure you refresh every couple of months. So people are really good about leaving comments on Facebook ads. I don't know why, but they really like doing it. And when you're running ads, make sure you're moderating those comments. And then even if you have a really winning ad that performs really well, don't leave it up forever because the comments will look really old. And if it's like, you know, Sarah left a comment 4 months ago, it just looks kind of bad. I can't articulate why, but I always just make a new copy of the ad and let the robots go again. Okay, so that was a really, really high level overview of organic and social media, but I wanted to leave a bunch of time for Q&A because, again, I love talking about this stuff, and this is what people usually have a lot of questions on. So you can either unmute and ask, or you can type it into the chat. Either way, all is good. And even if there are specific channels you want to know about, like how to use YouTube the best or hashtags, anything that you've kind of wondered about. Anne says, when it comes to social media marketing, where do micro-influencers fall in? Oh, that's a really good question. Anne, what kind of business do you have? I'm curious.
I haven't started yet, but I'm thinking about doing something in selling like dolls. So selling a product.
Sorry, you're really soft. Can you repeat that again or type it in the discussion? I wasn't able to hear it. Anne says, I've not started yet, but I will be selling Montessori products. Oh, interesting. So Anne's question was about micro influencers, and this is kind of the newest trend or topic of conversation about social media. And what happened was everyone realized, okay, well, nobody wants to hear from brands. They don't want to be sold to from brands. They don't want their feed to look like an advertisement. So let's find an influencer and have the influencer sell the product. Well, now everyone gets kind of like eye rolly. They don't want to buy anything. You know, Khloe Kardashian's always hawking some kind of butt lifter product. And so people have now moved to micro influencers. And this I actually really like the concept of, because a micro influencer is somebody in a niche community like Montessori school or even homeschooling who maybe doesn't have a lot of followers, but they have a dedicated follower. So again, I would much rather deal with an influencer who has 1,000 people that follow them, who are really engaged, who love what they have to say, trust them, comment on all their posts, versus somebody with 100,000 followers who they only like their pictures, or they don't really interact, or they don't really care, or they're selling a bunch of different things. So micro influencers are essentially a fancy way of saying, you know, people that are in a specific industry or topic that people really trust, that have a real community, that have a good relationship with their followers. So I think micro-influencers can be really powerful. So, and your question is, about educational toys to Montessori schools. One of my clients is a Spanish language learning app, and we're finding really good traction with homeschooling because they're used to a different kind of curriculum approach. They're not locked into the traditional school. And so they're okay to try a new way to learn Spanish that's not necessarily the drilling vocabulary words. And so I think you absolutely can find micro influencers in your niche, but you have to do quite a lot of research. So if you have somebody that can help you, or if you can spend time looking on these communities and seeing who not only has a decent following, but who has really good engagement. There may also be, I don't know if you guys remember like web rings or news groups online. And what it used to be is bloggers would say, hey, here's a list of 50 bloggers about this one topic. They're all good quality. Everyone follows each other. Let's encourage that. This kind of happens in niches, particularly in education. And so you may be able to and find somebody who deals with micro influencers for Montessori. So I was able to find, for my Spanish language app, I was able to find a homeschool network where she has a list of just homeschool moms who have not a huge following, but a decent following of people who really trust them. And so I was able to go through just this one network. It's called the iHomeschool Network. But I was able to go through that one network instead of reaching out to 20 different moms. I could just talk to that one person. So I would do some research. There may be people out there. And what I find is, again, don't expect sales immediately if you do an influencer campaign, even if they're super trusted, if they make the best post in the world. What I did is said, hey, or what I've done is say, hey, just talk about this product or service. And then when I know that these micro influencers are going to post about it, I also do a bunch of awareness ads on social media to people who are really similar to their followers. So that way, if I, as Angela, follow, let's say, 15 different social media accounts, well, maybe 5 post about this product, but I'm also seeing ads everywhere for this product because I'm running ads at the same time. I hope that's making sense. But essentially, if you're working with influencers, try to use other channels at the same time to reach those people, because then it makes your message more powerful if they're seeing it kind of over and over. You're welcome, Anne. I hope that answered your question. Essentially, short answer, I think that's a good idea. You should go for it. All right, any other questions? Feel free to, again, unmute yourself and ask, or you can type in the chat. Lisa says, we're currently running a Kickstarter and gearing up to do some paid ads. Where do we even start? That is a great question. Are the paid ads going to run to the Kickstarter is my question. I would assume so. But where I would start initially is if you have an existing customer list, and most people do, or they have, some people who are friendly, I would take that list and put it into Facebook. And what you can do is create a lookalike audience. So you tell Facebook, hey, this list of email addresses, or even better, phone numbers, go find people whose, 1,000 data point profile matches the 1,000 data point profile of my current customers, or people who have bought from me before or are interested in my stuff. That's going to be a lot more accurate, and you'll get much more bang for your buck. Then the thing I would note about Kickstarter ads is, again, they have to, I don't know if you can do a pixel on Kickstarter actually, but my ideal would be do some basic awareness ads of, we're going to do a Kickstarter. Here's the topic, or here's the problem it's going to solve. Here's why it's answering all of your prayers. And then run that for a couple of weeks. And then tell Facebook, hey, anyone who saw this ad, anyone who clicked through or interacted with this ad, show them a new ad that says, hey, contribute to our Kickstarter now. Limited time, prize or offer or discount, whatever you want to do. Because then you're not trying to sell them from the outset. They've already seen it. And even with that first ad group, they may still click through the Kickstarter and buy immediately, which is also okay. But I would start with really, really simple. If you have a customer list already, do a lookalike list and then point them to the Kickstarter with some awareness ads first, and then change the ads over to conversion. Buy now, here's why, or time's running out, whatever it is. And as far as which ad network, maybe you could start with, well, it depends on where your customers are. So if you know that they're on Instagram, then just do Instagram ads. Or if you know they're on Reddit, just do Reddit ads. So Lisa says, so the first one is awareness, second one is conversion. Absolutely. It's really hard to get somebody to buy a conversion ad right away, unless what you're selling is just super obvious. And even then, they still need to see it a few times before they do it. So I would absolutely do awareness first and then conversion. Also, congrats on kicking off your Kickstarter. That's a big deal. It's always super exciting and scary. And if you haven't done a Kickstarter before, one of the things I see is, and this happens with any actual product launch, is you'll do the announcement, you'll get a decent amount of traffic or donations, and then you'll hear nothing, and there'll be a big dip, even though you're putting out messages and you're encouraging people to donate or you're running ads. And then right before the cutoff date, right before the expiration, you'll see another big spike. So don't panic if you get kind of a lag in the middle. People are time sensitive. Either they want the product right away, or they want to kickstart it right away, or they need to wait until time's about to run out and they won't get the opportunity to buy it, and then they'll donate. So don't panic if you have a bit of a lag. That will happen. Any other questions, guys? Also, if you want to pull up one of your ads and share it, then that is also totally fine. I can roast your ads in real time now. I mean, lovingly give feedback on your ads in real time, or any of your organic social posts as well. Lisa says, yes, please, Lisa, if you're ready to share your ad live, I can stop sharing, and then you can take over sharing if that's cool. So I'm going to stop sharing for now. So then Lisa, if she wants to share and pull that up, we can do that live, because I think it's really fun to actually see what other people are doing. All right. Anne says, does one need to have a huge social media following before running ads? Absolutely not, because ads can be to anyone. It doesn't have to be to your current audience at all. You can show ads to somebody across the other side of the world who's not a customer of yours. Most of the time, people say, oh, but I need a social media profile with all these posts that needs to look awesome. I need to have 10,000 followers. If I see an ad that speaks to me and that's interesting and engaging, I'm just going to click through. I never go to the profile page, and most people never go to the profile page when they see an ad for a company. They may go there just to check it out and see if they're legitimate. If they've never heard of you before, they may want to make sure that you're actually in operation. So before running ads, just make sure you have some posts, you have your things that are up to date. But I would not worry about having a huge social media following. That doesn't really matter when it comes to running ads. So I would not let that hold you back at all. Just make sure, again, none of your information looks like old or janky. If they even click through your profile, most of the time they never even do. All right, any other questions or things? And Lisa, again, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, for one of these ads, then you absolutely can do that. This might take me a while to find it. If anyone wants to show their ad, if anyone wants to do that, we can look at those. Another piece that I like with ads, or a heads up with ads, is make the copy as short as possible. So if you have a lot of copy, most people won't read it. And if your ad looks like an ad, they're already primed to skim past it. So if they can read the copy on accident, if it's short enough that they can read it on accident without having to read through and think about it, that'll perform better than if you get really wordy and try to describe things with a lot of explanation. And this is absolutely a skill. You know, Malcolm Gladwell has that like 10,000 hours of, it takes 10,000 hours before you get really good at something. That's what my 10,000 hours in is, social media copywriting, both for organic and for ads. But it took me a really long time to figure out how can I describe a really complicated thing in not 100 words, but in 5 words. And so it takes a long time. Don't be afraid to go through multiple iterations of your ads and really spend time on the wording. And again, look at it from the perspective of somebody who doesn't know who you are, doesn't know why they should buy from you. They don't know what need your product solves. All of this stuff has to be communicated really quickly. So go through a few different variations and versions. That will help you a lot. All right, any other questions, thoughts? Fabian says, do you happen to know of studies of when it's best to make posts on social media for maximum exposure? Yes, the old timing adage. If you Google it, you will find 15 million answers. Everyone will say that they've done all the studies, they've done all the research. So a lot of the big social media tools put out a report every year of, you know, here's the best times of when to post. The answer is times they're not that important anymore because of the algorithms. So now when I open my Instagram, it used to be 3 years ago, it would show me all the posts in order from where I last left off. Now it shows me a post from 3 weeks ago. Then the next post is from a day ago. Then the next post is from 3 days ago. It is so dependent on how often somebody's looking at that channel, how often somebody's interacting with you, what your content is, that the algorithms have changed up the timing so much that it really doesn't matter that much. Your old Tuesday and Thursday at noon, sure, that was the case when we had chronological feeds, and let's say on my lunch break, I'm going to look at Twitter for some fun articles, but again, algorithmically, you're not guaranteed, even if it's Tuesday and Thursday at noon and I pull up Twitter, it's going to show me something from 3 days ago, or it's going to show me something that, 15,000 people liked and it thinks I want to see that. So I would not get super concerned with post times. I would, again, think through when your customers are on social media. And I would take a look at the analytics every so often, just see, in Facebook, go to your analytics, in Instagram, go to your analytics, kind of see when people are interacting. But for the most part, I would not get super concerned with when things are posted. And timing, Fabian says, I guess this will only apply to sites like Reddit. Yes. I can't even figure out Reddit timing, so I have no idea. I think it depends on each subreddit, like when the best time is. But I've posted things that I'm like, I know this is awesome content, it's super valuable, and it goes nowhere. And then there'll be a different subreddit where I'm like, okay, this content's good, but not great, but I'll still post it. And it goes crazy. So I can't figure out the Reddit timing, but Reddit is one of the last few sites that timing does actually matter. But unfortunately, I don't know what it is. I think it's totally subreddit dependent. And also just like luck. And is it a full moon? I don't know. Lisa says, it's been said that Pinterest is a big upcoming platform. Is this true? And how does one navigate it? I definitely, you're welcome, Fabian. Thanks for joining again. So Lisa, the thing with Pinterest is, and there's a reason I haven't even mentioned it, it can be really, really powerful for sharing information. So people have Pinterest boards where they will collect like a checklist or a graphic you make or a really cool picture of your product. I've had some clients where we've driven over 1 million site visits from Pinterest, and none of that ever led to conversions. I have never once been able to get Pinterest to convert, and maybe this is the clients that I'm using, maybe it's the products that they sell, but I've had clients in B2B, B2C, products, services, all of it, and I have never once been able to get Pinterest to convert. It can drive a good amount of traffic, but I personally think that I have my doubts as to whether it's real traffic. I think a lot of it is bot traffic. But I've never once been able to get Pinterest to do anything, because they can come to your site, but like if they don't sign up for your newsletter, if they don't buy something, if they don't interact in any way, that's not really worth a lot to me. And I've tried to do awareness on Pinterest and then retargeting those people using a pixel, and I still couldn't get any of it to convert. So unless your audience is like super big on Pinterest and they're buying a lot from Pinterest and they tell you that, or you've seen it in your metrics, I don't know that I would spend the time. It just depends on your business and who your customer is. But I personally have never been able to get it to work. And then in terms of how to navigate it best, Pinterest is really interesting because there's this whole online, there's a lot of people online who sell social media management services, who have never really been social media managers before, but they kind of know how to make some cute posts. And for some reason, they're all really good on Pinterest. They really like Pinterest. And so maybe spend $100 to hire, a consultant, one of those people. And I can give you offline some places to find them. But maybe just ask them about your product and your service individually and see, will Pinterest work? Is there a better way I can use it? I'm a big fan of most people, if they know what they're talking about, if you say, hey, can I give you $100 or $50 to just pick your brain about this, you'll get way more value than just the small amount of money you spent with them. So don't be afraid to find some people and say, hey, can I just buy a little bit of your time instead of just signing up for this huge complicated package. How much time do we have? We have 1 minute left. So if anyone has any other questions, Anne just sent one. And then Lisa sent an ad, so we'll look at that too in time. Anne says, does YouTube fall under social media? I heard business should create channels and post videos about their products because they can tag or use to get free marketing. Again, there's no free marketing anymore. If you're creating a social media business, a social media network, you're going to make brands pay for it. However, YouTube is the #2 search engine in the world. It's Google, and then YouTube is where people are searching. So you can spend all this time optimizing SEO on your website, making content, and we're going to talk about that actually in the next workshop. But YouTube is a totally underrated channel for things like that. So I think absolutely you should think about YouTube. However, my caveat is that YouTube, you really have to spend a lot more time and money on making videos that look good. You have to know how to edit. There's audio, there's visual, there's having a consistent schedule, all of these things that count for any other social media channel, but because it's video, it's harder to produce. So I absolutely think, one, yes, it is a social media channel and you should include it in your mix if it's appropriate, but just know that it takes like a really long time, or it takes a longer time to get YouTube right than it does the other channels. One of the ideas that I'm testing out with 2 of my clients actually is using YouTube as almost like a mini podcast platform. So for both of these clients, I say, hey, 2 times a month for 15 minutes, get on a Zoom call just like this one with one of your best customers, one of your clients, an expert in your industry, and just interview them for 15 minutes. It doesn't have to look fancy. It can look just like a computer screen. You're talking to them, and then post that 2 times a month, because then you have consistent content. You're adding value. The other people are going to share it. It's another thing for you to appear in the Google search results, because Google, of course, wants people to visit YouTube since they own it. So I absolutely think it can be done, and it's something to think about, but just know that it takes a little more time to do it. Lisa says, this is the first test ad we did a few weeks ago. Cool. Also, and yes, thank you. I hope that was helpful. YouTube, I always forget to count that as a channel, but it's absolutely a channel. It can do really well for you. All right. Let me share my screen so I can show you guys this ad. Give me a moment. I'm operating in a very large conference room with the screen very far away from me. So if I keep squinting, that's why. All right. Oh, here's my screen. Oh, it's blocked by an extension because I have ad block on. I know we're a little over time, but I have a few minutes that I can do. All right, let's refresh here. Okay. So let's look at this ad. So here, when I was talking earlier about placements, so here I can see, Lisa, that you were probably running this ad on all these different placements because you didn't uncheck the other ones. So like instant articles. If I'm reading an article on Facebook, there's no way I'm going to stop and interact with an ad. So this is something you can uncheck when you're setting up the ad because you're still spending money for Facebook to test this placement and show this placement to other people. So that would be my first thing, like right away, is to uncheck that. Again, I think the news feed, both mobile and desktop, if you're not splitting out those two, are good placements. I would not do in-stream videos. Definitely don't do the right column. I've never had that convert ever, one single time. And then Instagram feed is the only other one I would do. So really just feed ads. And then audience network is okay, but that's a little more specialized. We can talk about that later. Okay, so the ad itself. So this one, immediately, so I'm assuming that, so it's an enamel pin. I think that's great. However, I think there's too much copy down here. So I need to, again, scan the ad and know, what are you selling right now? And if this is for your Kickstarter, which I know it is because you and I talked on the phone, if your Kickstarter is for the enamel pins, just say great quality enamel pins or just enamel pins. You don't need the other stuff if this link is going directly to the Kickstarter. And again, is this Predipus? Is this like from a TV show, or is it like a known character? Where if you're targeting like people who like that show, that they would know what it is, because I don't know what this is. Oh, it's a character you created. So if it's a new character that they don't know of, I think the copy's cute. You know, it's like reference Pokemon. I like that, but they don't know that this is a pin. Let's see what the video is. Yeah, I like that it's a cute little video. I think that's good. But like, show the pin, show what it would look like. You know, I don't know, looking at this ad, what it is and why I would click through and what I would be buying. So I would say, like, you could do, you know, the cute copy, but then show the pin itself, or have this cute video, but in the copy explain that it's an enamel pin. So in some way in the ad, you need to like explain what it is. Lisa also says, this doesn't lead to the Kickstarter, but it was supposed to be for brand awareness. Oh, okay. Well, that's cute. So what I would do is run this ad, but you say shop now. And so to me, that means like I should buy something. So if you're going to run awareness ads, I would do learn more as your CTA button. And then in the copy say, so you have the wild Predipus appears. And then I would have a new line that says, you know, tons of cute characters, explore them all, or find the cool stuff you can buy with these on it. Like, have some explanation of what it is. So if they don't click through, when they see your next ad, when they see your next awareness ad or conversion ad, they know already that it's characters on clothing or pins that you can buy, because this stuff down here, people aren't really going to read it. It doesn't, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but at the bottom of the ad, people aren't going to read that. They'll read this top copy here at the top and then say, oh, that's a shop now button. I don't need to read the rest of this. It's just noise. So for awareness ads, again, say like, we designed these are totally new characters. Aren't they super cute? Look how cool they are. But I would show like what the actual merchandise looks like too. This ad actually would be really good for people who have already bought from you, like any retargeting ads for your current customers, just to remind them that you're there, that you have a new, maybe this would be a great ad for if you added a new character and this is like an announcement. Target that ad to your current customers. I think that would be super powerful and really cool. You'd be like, oh, sweet, I already know that Muka makes cool stuff and cute things. Here's a new character that I could then buy and kind of collect, quote unquote. I hope that was helpful and makes sense. Yeah, because then you can see through the other like placements, but I would watch out for that. Oh yeah, see, and not all the time, not all the copy appears on everything, so just be careful for that. All right, well, we are over time. I'm glad that was super helpful. Thank you guys for joining. I really like it. I will send out this video and this recording to everyone. Probably I'm going to do it in a batch at the end of all these workshops because I feel like I'm going to spam people otherwise if I send out the video each time. And I had also gotten a question from Lisa that the brand guidebook and marketing plan I mentioned last time and showed, I will also send that out in a big batch after the workshops are complete. But that's just right at the beginning of March, so it's not too long from now. So awesome. Well, thanks guys for joining. This was super fun. I will talk to you for the next workshop on Friday. Bye.